Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Encrypted Connections. I am your host, Kyle. Happy Sunday. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Um, Mine was pretty uneventful, uh, as I like things nowadays. You spend so much of your time when you're younger, and everything is too eventful for many years. I got my green screen's going crazy behind me. Um, and so when things are uneventful and boring, you're thankful. You get grateful for it, uh, and I'm grateful when things can be boring. Um, Spent a little time today playing some video games with my nephew. When he comes over, he loves to play video games with his uncle, um, or he likes to play the video game and make me watch. Basically, is how that goes, which is fine. Uh, he broke his clavicle recently. What a tough kid, man! I'll tell you. I don't know. I don't know. He the very next day after breaking that thing, and I'm talking about broken in half. This thing was floating. Um, the very next day, he's swinging his arm around like he didn't do anything. He's such a tough kid. So him and his little brother were here today for a little while, and his my other little nephew. He is about two. Is he two? I think he might be two, coming up on two. God, I forget. I'm terrible. But he's such a sweet little kid, I'll tell you. My God, so cute. Big curly golden locks, big brown eyes. He's the most mellow little guy. Um, he's so well behaved, man. So they're always fun to have around the house. I enjoy having them here. Um, oh, okay. Thank God, Hellbent's here. We can all relax, everybody. We can all relax. Joe and Jesse are here. Everybody, you can finally calm down. Everything's going to be okay. Joe's here, all safe. Stand down. That's right. Joe, you're doing a wonderful job, buddy. Spectacular. Jesse, you're all right too. I'm just kidding. You're wonderful. Um, let's go through and say hi to some people. My brother Fresh, what's going on, buddy? How are you? Salty, what's up, man? Hello, Miss Frankie. Welcome. Jody, how are you? Jody, I wanted to say again, I left a thing on your Facebook post. I'm very sorry about the dog, honey. I know that's the worst. It's just the worst. You have a pet. If you're like me, especially, like I know if anyone who has pets, and I don't say anyone because the situation with Princess is the perfect example of why not everyone should have pets. But like the people who have pets and love their pets, it's family. It's family. They're like children to you. And it's just awful. So my heart goes out to you. Hey, Hope, how are you? Sonia, welcome. I think I've caught. Hey, Miss K, how are you? I, for one, feel better knowing Hellbent is near. Yes, yeah, that's right. They do. Yeah, they can put you at ease. That's for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I really don't. I don't know how you can wake up every day and just exude that much excellence on a daily basis. I don't get it. I don't get it. I try to put in effort and so much effort, and I just can't. I can't even get close. I can't even get close. Um, anyway, enough mucking around. I will be going out tomorrow, up to the property. I'm going to do my best to try to get a signal and to try to stream from there. We all know how this goes. Like, it's not easy. You know, out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by nothing but forest. Um, so I can't promise anything, but I will try. I'm going to go to his property first, like to his house, and then I'm going to try to go to that corner in the state forest that kind of butts up to his property, the one where I was getting the signal for a little while. The last time I tried, I couldn't get a signal out there, which I don't understand how you get one for a while and then all of a sudden you go back and you can't get one. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm going to do my best. I wish I had one of those big antennas like Joe and Jesse have, but you know, I'll put it on my wish list. I'll ask Santa. Maybe Santa will bring it. Yes, that's right. The Bitter Couch Potato and the Salty Explorer. That's our show. That's our new show we're pitching. So it's called the Salty Explorer and the Bitter Couch Potato. I think you'll all want to watch that one. I think it's going to be really good. I'm going to be the bitter one, though, just in case anybody was wondering. Anyway, enough is enough. Let's get this thing started. Without further ado, why is this green screen dancing around so much like this? Just don't pay attention to this side. Nope, this side. Yeah, just don't look at that stuff right there. That fuzzy stuff. Just don't pay attention to that. Just pretend this is real behind me. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my esteemed co-host for the evening and our good friend, Mr. Dewey Edwards. How are you, Dewey?
I'm doing fine, Kyle. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm better now that you're here.
Well, good. Good deal. Good deal. Makes me feel better.
That's it. Go. As long as you feel better, then we're good.
Oh, yeah. That'd work.
We were just talking, and he brought something to my attention, and I didn't even I never thought about it before, but you put a pair of sunglasses on this man, and he is a spitting image of Dale Earnhardt.
Well, back in the day when my mustache was a little darker, it may have,
Yeah.
Before it got the salt and pepper look,
Well, Dale Earnhart would have had a salt and pepper mustache had he, stuck around. Not to sound mean, but his mustache would be salt and pepper by now too. Anyway, so let's get started. You've been on the show a couple times, and we never got to get to the topic of the Bell Witch, which is something that you've dove into pretty deeply. So why don't you tell us the story of the Bell Witch for those of us who don't know it?
I'll try my best.
Okay.
I wrote a book, Something Wicked, the Bell Witch Phenomenon. I worked on it several years and did a lot of family research into the Bell family. A good friend of mine, Mr. Tim Henson, he's the curator of the Adams, Tennessee Museum. He's big into the genealogy part of it, and I kind of took the legend side of it, kind of took it from there. But John Bell, and he married Lucy Williams in North Carolina. They had several children, and the rumor I hear is he got in trouble with his overseer on his. He had a big tobacco farm out in North Carolina. He got in trouble with his overseer, and I reckon beat him up pretty bad. We understand it, but anyway, for some reason they left North Carolina, came across the mountains to Tennessee, and supposedly they witnessed the Brown Mountain Lights as they come across the mountain. That was their first, what they considered then as supernatural, event. And they got in Robertson County about 1804, 1805 or something like that. He bought several acres and built a pretty good sized farm up along the Red River. In fact, the community he settled in was called Red River, Tennessee. It's now Adams, city of Adams. Oh. And it just and it encompasses the place where where Adams City Hall, the old Bell School, all set right now. And it went down where the Bell Witch Cave is at, on across the river. And his son had a big farm over across the river, Drew Bell. Drew Bell was his name was Drury. He was the odd one of the bunch. The witch scared him so bad that he refused to get married. He slept with several of his slave women and produced a few children that way, One of them ended up going off to the Civil War and came back in a pine box. They split his farm up after he passed away, right after the Civil War, and split his farm up. And one of them, Jack Bell, was involved in a very brutal murder of a man named Leonidas Laprade. And that's another one of my books too, Lights Out. That's the story of that murder. It was a horrific murder. But anyway, we go back to John Bell. I said he settled in Red River, Tennessee, and I said had a farm, and everything was going on pretty good. He kind of got into it with a lady named Kate Batts, one of his neighbors, over some property. He was taken to court for usury for charging Frederick Batts, her husband, too much interest. And anyway, it got him excommunicated from the Red River Church, which was a big ordeal back then, get excommunicated from a church. It kind of went downhill from there, He was out in his cornfield one day and saw this strange animal. And I refer to that as probably the first cryptid ever recorded in Robertson County. He saw this big black dog, but it had a rabbit's head. And so he pulled his rifle up, took a shot at it, and he was a pretty good shot the way I understand it. Anyway, the bullet went through whatever, this thing disappeared, and the bullet buried up in the ground where this thing was standing at. And he went over, looked and see, and sure enough, there was a mark on the ground where the bullet hit, but there was a sign of blood, hair, or nothing, So that was the first encounter, something kind of odd was going on. His children were chased by this big giant bird one day. They went out to pick some apples out of the apple orchard, and this big bird almost attacked them, and it was watching them, and I think it finally chased them back to the house, and I think it was Joel Bell was the youngest one. Joel Bell was one of them. He when they got to the porch, he knew something. He could feel something right behind him, and he turned around, and this big giant buzzard, had turned to the dog with no head, the dog with a rabbit head. And as it made a lunge for him, it disappeared in midair. And so a lot of things were going on with that. They started hearing a little tapping sounds on the windows, a little scratching, and they just kind of passed it off, rats maybe or something like that. Then it kept getting louder and louder and louder, and finally it got so that it made noises like dropping a bucket of chains or something in the floor, like a cannonball rolling down the stairs in the house. It's a fairly large house out of logs, and I think I forgot what kind of house they called it. It was triangles. It had 3 chimneys in it, 2 on each side, 1 on each side and 1 in the back. And I'll get to that in a little bit too. Anyway, why that is kind of important, the 3 chimney deal. So anyway, they kept hearing these noises, and it got worse and got worse. It finally developed a voice. It talked to Betsy first. It called her by name. That was his youngest daughter. She would, when she went to bed, something would pull the covers off the bed. It would tie her hair in knots around the bedpost.
Oh God!
It slapped her around. It tortured her unmercifully, and she would be screaming. They would come in to see what was going on, and everything was just like it should be, except they'd find her, like her hair tied to the bedpost or something like that. The room would fill with rats like one night or something like that, and hear these strange animal sounds and all, They kept putting it off and putting it off. They knew something was going on, but they couldn't. They didn't want to let everybody know what was going on. They kind of kept it quiet, and they finally consulted the area, one of their friends, James Johnston. He was the minister of the church there they went to, and he spent the night with them. And I reckon the Bell Witch had all but run him off that night. Didn't even want him to come in the house. And the Bell Witch referred to him as Old Sugar Mouth. The way he was so eloquent, preaching things like that. She called him Sugar Mouth, Old Sugar Mouth.
Excuse me, real quick. From now on, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to be referred to as Old Sugar Mouth.
Old Sugar Mouth. You got it.
Continue.
You got it. You can change your Pop-Tart. Think about it. Old Sugar Mouth. How's that?
That's right.
But everybody got to hearing about this. Word spread pretty quick. All the neighbors had come around. People came from out of state. theoretically, as they say, Andrew Jackson actually came there before he was the president. I think he was still a general in the army at the time.
Oh boy.
But he came there, and he was in a carriage. And I went by the place the other day and was showing Elijah where this is supposed to happen at. But he was coming down the road and had his entourage with him. He had a witch hunter. I think it's a witch killer. There were several other people with him. He got a whole troop with him. But anyway, they got close to the Bell property right before they crossed over the road into the Bell property. The wheels on this carriage locked up, and it wouldn't. And the horses couldn't pull it. So he kept on. Finally, got somebody said something about the witch or something. He's pled with the witch to let him go. And so she told him if he would mind his manners, they should let him go. So she released the wheels, and he went on to the Bell farm. And he was supposed to have spent the night, but evidently he didn't. The witch got after his witch killer or witch hunter. And so bad, run him plumb out of the house, and he decided he would go back to Nashville. So he got back in his carriage, and went back to Nashville. Said he had rather fight the British Army than to face the Bell Witch again. Is what he said.
Oh God,
that's what it's rumored he said. But everything, like I said, everything got get worse. So, she got to mistreating Betsy pretty bad. Then she got to mistreating John. And we don't know what the deal is on that. There was the rumor. The movie come out, American Haunting. In fact, there's a poster back behind me back here. I didn't star in the movie, but I did have a part on the DVD and extra features where I did some promotional for it. And but they were hinting at the idea of incest, and that's why the witch supposedly tormented Betsy, because she wouldn't tell, and then that's why she tormented John, because he wouldn't confess to what he was doing. When the movie came out, the Bell family petitioned the theater owner in Springfield not to show it in Springfield. They did not show in Springfield. I had to go to Nashville to watch the movie, just because of that, what they were insinuating, There was another book too called All That Lives by Melissa Sanders Self. And it also referred to incest as the reason for the haunting, But that's why they say that John Bell's, his tongue, it swelled where he couldn't speak. He couldn't swallow. He couldn't eat. It felt like there was a stick in his throat, when he tried to eat, and that's what she was trying to tell him, if you confess to this, then that's, then we'll let you go, let you, or quit tormenting you. But anyway, she actually supposedly tormented John to his grave. She put I gotta bow back up a bit before I get that far ahead of myself. She pulled all kind of tricks on the family. She told them. They asked who she was, and she says that she was a spirit. She was a spirit of a Native American whose grave had been disturbed. And when the skull was brought to John Bell's house by a couple of them, one of his kids and one of the neighbors, that they threw it around or something, and a tooth fell out. And a tooth supposedly landed underneath the floorboards of the house. So they ended up digging up the whole floor of the house trying to find this tooth, and never could find it. Well, then she laughed at them for being so crazy and believing that. She also told them that she knew where there was a large sum of gold and silver buried down by the river, and she would show them where it was at. But she specified who she wanted to do the digging and all that kind of stuff with this. So anyway, they went down to the river, followed her direction down to the river, and she pointed them to a big rock. And they finally got the rock dug away and moved, and they dug and dug and dug all day, several feet down in the ground beside the river, and never find a thing. Well, then she got to laughing at them, calling them fools, for believing her, things like that. There was several things that she did just to more or less torment the family. I don't know how much of it's true. This story was written 40 years after the fact
Yeah.
by one of the Bell children. It was written up to sell to a newspaper publisher, M.V. Ingram, who was going to write it, put it into a book. And it was actually in the deal that it would not be released. The book would be released until the last one of the Bell children had passed away. So you can believe what you want to of it. I don't know. It's supposed to be the only occurrence to where a human was killed by a supernatural entity.
Yeah.
She told John Bell that she was the witch of Kate Batts, which that was the neighbor. I was by that place the other day with Elijah. My cousin owns the property where the old Kate Batts house stood, and so we went by there, but they weren't home at the time, and I wanted to get out. There's an old well over there, but I didn't want to get out and walk across the property with nobody home or anything. There's a big section of woods right by the house, and I'm thinking it's probably where their graves are at, where Kate and Frederick's buried at. And I want to get back in there this winter and maybe do a little dousing and see if I can't maybe find a couple of graves. I was told that at one time there was a couple of small stones back there, and but somebody's either got them or disappeared. As far as the gravestone disappearing, actually John Bell's gravestone disappeared back in the 50s, and supposedly this 3 or 4 guys got it when they pulled it up, put it in the trunk of their car, and they drove around with it. And that night they got into a terrible auto accident, and I think everybody but one in the car got killed. I think he died later. But the mother of the boy that was driving the car went to the car to get his effects out of it and found the tombstone. It must not have been very big, evidently. So anyway, she evidently took it out of that car, put it in the trunk of her car, and headed out to Adams trying to find where it went. Well, she didn't have any idea where she was going. And she drove around to Adams, biggest part of the night, and finally just gave up and just pulled over beside the road and pitched out into a ditch somewhere. So somewhere along the roads of Robertson County, if this story is true, there's John Bell's original stone is laying somewhere, somewhere in a ditch somewhere. But the stone was replaced, and it wasn't very far. Burial wasn't very far from the house. We went back there the other day, and there's an old well back there. There's an old home site, and right across just a few 100 yards away was where his son John Bell Jr. It's where his home was and where he's buried at. And but it's I said, I don't know how much of it you can believe. I believe there was something going on. I don't know what. There's still a lot of things going on up around Adams, and every time something happens, it's blamed on the Bell Witch. They still do it today. In fact, I still do it. In fact, you'll see I'm wearing my Bell Witch shirt. The last time I wore this shirt was at the Thresherman show in Adams. I bought this thing Saturday and brought it home. Sunday, my air conditioner unit went out. Cost me almost $9,000 to get it replaced. It's the first time I've had this shirt on since. I'm just taking a chance on trying it. And if something happens tonight or in the morning, I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna take it out back, and I don't know where to burn it or bury it. I don't know, but
I don't know.
It's gonna leave my presence if something happens.
Yeah, it's crazy that in all the history of America and all the paranormal rumors, myths, and folklore, that this is the only case where they attributed someone's death to something supernatural.
Right. So that morning, he was sick in bed. They went in to feed him breakfast, and he couldn't move. And they noticed this little strange little vial beside on his bed table. It had a little smoky look, So they actually picked it up and looked at it and didn't know what it was. And Kate told him that she had put it there, that she had poisoned him, And Anyway, they took one of the boys took a straw off the broom and put it down in the vial and pulled it out and drug it through a cat's mouth. Well, the cat just made about 3 leaps up into there and then fell dead. And whoever it was had the bottle in her hand, threw it into the fireplace. And it's just like it almost exploded, just like just a big ball of fire, big ball of blue fire went up the chimney, and destroyed all the evidence, I guess,
Oh,
But
man.
it was supposedly we're going to during his funeral, the witch was singing all these raunchy sounding songs and all kind of stuff, the whole time they were in the procession going to the grave, to bury him in the graveyard. So, it's she told him she had killed him. She called him Old Jack, and that she had tortured Old Jack, and he would be no more.
Oh, man.
And as far as the cave, the cave, this is my theory. The cave is not haunted by the Bell Witch. The cave is located beneath the Native American burial ground.
Oh, boy.
Or the Native burial ground's above the cave, put it that way. But anyway, so I'm thinking there's a portal, what everybody's saying is this portal. But anyway, that's the reason that's why I think they don't want you to pick up a rock or anything out of the cave. You don't take anything out of the cave home
Bring it with you.
If you do, you took part of that portal home with you, and it can let anything come through. I've had 2 calls in the last 4 or 5 years of people that actually took a rock from the cave, and their life just fell all to pieces. They lost their jobs, lost their cars, lost their homes. One girl moved in with her sister in Florida after she lost everything she had in Adams, and she was down there, and everything started going crazy down there. I think they either had an electrician. It was an electrician or a plumber, one of the, I can't remember which one she said it was, come to the house and to fix something. And so he walked up the door, opened the door and walked in and come running back out and said, I can't go in there. Said, you got something in there I'm not going to deal with, And but they couldn't get anybody to come to the house and fix anything. And she had, I told her, well, the first thing you need to do is mail that rock back. I got the address to the cave. I said, you put that little box put that little rock in a box, and you mail it back to the cave and tell them that you to please put it back in the cave for you. And so she did. One of them wanted to send a rock to me, and I said, no, no. So they ended up, I reckon, mailing them back. One guy, my friend Tim, he worked at the water plant, which is right down below the entrance to the cave. And he said he was there one morning, and this guy come flying up in the parking lot. He'd seen his car sitting up there at the entrance to the cave, at the gate to the cave. He says he jumped in his car and come flying down there and slid to a stop in the gravel parking lot and wondered what time the cave opened. He said, well, it all depends. They hadn't got any set schedule. Back then they didn't. I got to get back there. And Tim says, what's your big hurry about wanting to get back to the cave? He said, well, he told him the whole story about he picked a rock up, and he took it home with him, and he lost his wife, everything, his whole life had fell apart. And so Tim said, well, I know what you do is you might go back up there maybe and just throw it back over the fence maybe, or you might catch somebody up there in a few minutes and give it to them and then see if they'll put it back in the cave. And sure enough, the guy walked up after the gate to unlock the gate, and the guy met him up there and gave him the rock, and they're supposed to put it back in the cave. And I hadn't heard anything, but the girls, both the people I talked to, and it was out of state now, they said after the one in Florida, I did get a hold of the Paranormal Society down there, Paranormal Group, and down close to her home, and talked with them, and they went to her. They made arrangements, I reckon, for a priest to go to the house and bless it, and to try to take care of the situation. And last time I talked to her, she said they'd come to the house, everything it was back to normal again, and she thanked me for my help. But I hadn't heard anything from them since, so hopefully everything's
Oh
still
yeah.
going good with them. I'm hoping.
Yeah, usually when you don't hear anything, that's a good sign. Well, unless they, unless
Yeah,
the end
yeah,
came.
exactly. It could be good or bad.
Yeah.
Uh, the only thing mentioned in the Bell Witch book about the cave is there were some of the kids were in there playing hide and seek, and this one little boy tried to crawl through the opening. There's a small opening or something between them. He tried to crawl through and got stuck, and he was screaming. Of course, his candle was on one side and he was on the other, through the opening, and they tried to find him and couldn't, and because he pushed a candle through first, and they couldn't find him, and then I think the Kate just got tired of hearing him uh, screaming and crying and everything, grabbed him by the feet and snatched him out of the hole and drug him from outside the cave. And I guess his teeth was digging up mud. I guess and all, as she drug him out. That's the only mention in the Bell Witch book at all about the cave. My cousin owned it for a while, and he had a bunch of stuff happen to him. In fact, they put a whole book together about things that he had witnessed and all. They've got he lived down right by the cave, and he said that several times he'd heard a knock at the door. In the wintertime, especially, he'd hear a knock at the door and go look, and it would be snowing or it had snowed, and there was no tracks anywhere in his yard. There was no tracks on his porch or anything, But they could see somebody walking away from the house, but not leaving any tracks, in the snow.
So crazy.
I mean, weird stuff going on down there.
So crazy.
He called me one day when I was in the rescue squad, volunteer rescue squad, and they had a dog that had fell off the bluff, and landed. There was a big shelf rock sticking out from the bluff, and this dog had landed on it, and it was kind of stuck there. And said he saw it. It'd been there for a day or two. So he couple was probably getting hungry, so he was throwing some food down there for it to eat, but he couldn't get any water down to it. I guess the dog could have probably jumped off the edge of the bluff into the river and got some water, but he was afraid, he was going to perish there. So he wanted to know if we could come down and figure out some way of getting the dog, rescuing the dog. So me and my brother and a nephew and one or two more went to we drove down there, and my nephew, he was the smallest, and so we put him in a harness and helped him rappel down to the dog, and sent him a leather bag down there, and he picked the bag up, took the bag and put the dog in it, and we tied a rope to it and pulled the dog up and released it, and then put the I was reading the chat there. And anyway, then we throw the rope back down. He hooked up, and we pulled him back up. And his name was Bim Zeed, and he was a cousin of mine. And he says, "Let me give you a tour of the cave for rescuing this dog." And I said, "I tell you what, I'm gonna take a rain check on the cave. And I'll get it later." Of course, he's passed away since then. And the place was sold, but I didn't. I'm gonna do it one of these days, but right now I'm still. I don't know. A lot of things happen there.
Well, yeah, Indian burial grounds are notorious for, anytime they're disturbed, bad things happen.
Oh yeah.
These are very sacred places.
Oh, yes.
They take their, the burials of their people very seriously, and so to disturb any of that ground or anything around it is bad news, man.
It is. Here at my house, I had to I was going to build a garage, and I went to the zoning board to get a permit. Well, my permit, I'd bought and paid paying on this place for 3 years, and I went to get my permit, and they says, "Well, your deed hasn't been released from the environmental yet, for they're supposed to done the septic tank inspection and all that stuff, So anyway, in the meantime, I had put a pool in the backyard, and they said my pool was 2 feet too close to one of my field lines, just a corner of it to my field line, and they turned down my permit. I had to put a whole new septic system in, and they put 2 tanks in the backyard, one septic tank and a pump tank that the water goes in, and it's pumped up about 200 yards up on top of the hill above my house, and it comes back down into the field lines. And my wife's uncle put it in, and I helped him. I was his laborer. I saved myself a few dollars by doing the grunt work for him. But he dug a pretty good deep ditch, my backyard, across in front of where my garage is now, and up on top of the hill. Well, there's a big dogwood tree there in the corner by my garage, and he went, fairly close to it. And I went out, thought, I want to make some pictures of where this line is, and for future reference, I've got a few landmarks. I'll make a few pictures, and that way I've got visual evidence of where this line runs in case I have to dig it up or something later on.
Sure.
So I made a picture. I didn't think much about it. Used that dogwood tree, and I got to looking at them later on. And one of them, the tree had this like a smoky, just like a big trail of smoke coming out the top of it, and it just a big old wisp of smoke out of it. And looking at what in the world is that? And I sent it off. There used to be some guy. He's passed away now, but he was one of the first actual ghost hunters I had ever, talked to and all I had the association with. And he said that that's what he called a spirit energy pattern. And I just thought download it, I guess, and sent it to you. I guess where you could show it. But but anyway, he says it had to have been a very powerful spirit to show up like that in broad daylight, like it did. I mean, it's very prominent. And I just wondered if he went through something when he was digging the ditch, with a backhoe, if he disturbed something, in my yard. I've always had this weird feeling of it being a burial ground. It's a little level spot down. There's a little bend in the river, a little creek. It's a dry creek actually now. I think at one time it had water flowing through it, but it's just more or less just a wet weather creek now. And I've always had the impression that being a burial ground there. And in fact, that's where Lily saw the little girl that time that she described her as being Lily. And it's the same place we saw her at. Same place I saw that portal out in my yard at night, and I was
that story about was that your granddaughter or your niece?
Yeah, granddaughter.
Yeah, that was crazy. She saw a little girl who's dressed in traditional old Native American attire.
Yeah, that was. I didn't waste any time getting the house that day. When she said her eyes were black, that told me there.
Yeah, that's all I need to hear.
That's not a good sign there,
That's all I need to hear.
But like I said, back to the Bell Witch. She's like I said, I don't know how much of it's true. To John Bell and Kate Batts had a few rounds, a few legal rounds and things like that, and that's where I reckon the Bell Witch herself said she was Kate Batts' witch. That's when she started calling herself Kate. So every time something goes on around here, I'll say, "All right, Kate, leave me alone," or "Go on about your business." I'm sorry.
It's I've heard most of the stuff about this story. I think I don't want to say most people have, but I think if you're part of this community, you have to know something about the Bell Witch, and that Kate Batts lady was one scary lady.
Yeah, that was one thing that kind of bothered me. That list you sent me about the myths, in each different state.
It wasn't the myth there. It wasn't the biggest one.
I thought that would have been.
That's what I thought.
Number one in Tennessee, and
that's what I thought.
Thought that was kind of odd. I mean, I've heard of that one, the Jamestown School before. I've never been to it. I've heard about it. Now the Adams, the old Bell School in Adams, the same kind of situation happened there. Only she wasn't attacked by a bunch of kids. She actually this little girl got sick. This is back in the 30s, 1930s. She got sick, and back then there was only 4 classrooms downstairs. I think there was maybe 3 upstairs, and then there was a big auditorium. And but she got sick. Each one of the rooms had what they call a cloak room, but they put teacher kept supplies in. That's where you'd hang your coats up in the wintertime, things like that. In fact, the Cross Plains school that I went to had that same setup. But they had a little cot. Each one of them had a little cot in case one of the kids got sick or something. So she put her back there and put her on the cot, and going back and checked on her later on, and she had passed away, And the only person I know that went to school with her that was going to try to tell me what that girl's name was, where I could, put some fact behind it. She passed away a few years ago, and never did tell me the little girl's name. She's supposed to got back with me on the girl's name, but she never did. But she's been seen there in the school several times. In fact, Lily, when she was little, she had an altercation with her in the same room that this little girl passed away in, and it was pretty scary. Lily was wanting to get out of the room there real quick, and but she was in a stroller at the time. I mean, she wasn't even walking.
Oh wow!
And she saw her, and we had to get her out of the room. She was screaming to get out of that room, and but anyway, I went in with my. I thought I'm gonna go in and figure out. I asked somebody, I said, which room was it? She said, well, we don't know. We got a good idea. Says, we're not going to influence you. Let you go and do your investigation. You tell us which room it is. So I went to the first one in there, because there's the office in there. The office is in there now, City Hall. And I opened the door up and didn't get any kind of weird feeling at all. Went the second one, no feeling. And I went to the third one. It was nothing there, really, I could tell. Bunch of air conditioner equipment stuff in it. But I went to the fourth one where the museum is housed now, and opened that door, and the feeling I got told me this is the room.
Yeah.
I went in and closed the door, took my thermal, infrared thermal thermometer, and got you going around the room, and right there by the doorway, of a little spot, maybe a foot and a half wide, maybe, and maybe 3 feet tall or something like that. The temperature was 30 degrees below ambient. You ambient temperature, you hit 70 here, you come over here, and it's 40, I mean, it's just weird. And you could almost trace her outline just about, and so I thought, well, I think I found a room. They said, well, that's the room we heard it was. So, but she's been seen upstairs on the steps. And in fact, I wrote a poem about her. I need to try to find that next time. I'll try to read that to you. I call her the girl in the green dress. She's been seen sitting on the front steps of the old school. A couple of Mother Turker went by there one day, and they saw us a girl, and it was late at night. And the little light on the front porch, I guess it illuminated her, I guess. So she was sitting there, and he pulls up. He's going to ask her, what's wrong. He sees her as he comes around the corner, and he pulls up there by the front steps, and there's nobody there, And but she's been seen on the bridge down below the cave. She's been seen in the schoolhouse. There's a couple of people that actually almost run off the bridge to keep from hitting her. There's a lot of legends, around Adams. One of them, I'm gonna say about 1962, maybe. Daddy was a member of the Civil Defense, and they called him. We was at church and was headed to the house that day after church, and one of the county deputies pulled us over. And Daddy thought, I ain't done anything wrong, So anyway, he walked up to him and said, Mr. Edwards.
I'm glad you feel that way when you get pulled over, because that's not usually how I feel.
Me either.
I'm like, what did I do this time?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so Mr. Edwards says they've been trying to get a hold of you. Said there's a little boy who got hit over on Kenny's Road, and they can't find him. No. And said they want you over there to look for this kid. So we went over there, and the car was still sitting there. There was a family had left church and had seen this little boy across the road in front of them. They described him wearing a red checkered shirt, overalls, and run across the road in front of him, and they hit him. Well, they knew that it had to have killed him, but they couldn't find anything. So we got out and walked through the field. So I was young. I wasn't about maybe 10, 11 years old. And walked through the fields there beside the road looking for him. We couldn't find a trace or anything. Couldn't find a spot of blood or anything. There was a dent on the car hood, but it may have been there before. I don't know. Uh, they so they hit him, and they were in a panic. I mean, they were screaming and crying and carrying on, and y'all please find him. He may be hurt bad or something, and we're in there trying to find him, and can't find anything. They even get a wrecker over there and pick the car up where they can see under it and look under the car in case he's stuck underneath it. We ain't found anything yet. And there's been several people have seen this kid since then.
Wow.
And it's not, and it's kind of in between the Bell place and the old Kate Batch place. It's in that area, so there's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, strange. I wonder, it makes me always wonder why you have these places that just seem to have so much of this paranormal energy in them, like there's just places on the map that have so much stuff going on in such a small area compared to the size of the United States or the world even.
Right.
When you talk about like Adams has all these weird things, you talk about the LBL has these weird things, the Bridgewater Triangle up here has all these weird things. It's just I wonder why. I wonder what makes all of that strange energy focused in these areas.
Exactly. We've been I was involved in two searches. We've had 3 women come up missing in Adams. The 2 of them within a year apart. I was involved in the search on both of those. We actually dropped hooks down in wells and everything else, trying to see if they'd been dropped off in a well or something. Maybe we figured they'd been killed, but we just didn't know where they were at or where the body was. And and I've been trying. That's one book I wanted to work on, and I may get enough information to work on it. The third one, she was missing for like 3 or 4 years. A hiker right outside of Adams, right above Red River there, but it's a campground out there outside of town. And they found a hiker found her skeleton up there in the woods, and I think they kind of determined her husband had killed her. Got rid of her. Mm-hmm. But the other 2, that was 40 years ago. And I talked to the sheriff's department last year. I'd like to get the case information on it, and write a book about it, at least those 3 disappearances. And they're still open cases. It's been 40 freaking years. You ain't done nothing at all, What are you doing, So
unbelievable.
You call up and ask, I'd like to talk to the detective in charge of the, so-and-so case, Well, he's not here right now, So
yeah, because there's no detective there that's checking on that case that's 40 years old. Be honest.
Now, they did find a skull back real close to where the James Johnson farm was. It had a hole in the top of the head, like he'd been hit with a hammer or something. But the jawbone was gone, and all the top teeth were missing. And there was nothing they said they'd get DNA out of to see who it was. They did. I don't know. They said it looked like it may have been a woman's skull. I don't know how they determined that, but I think that was part of it. So it's just kind of weird, and I wanted to get the information. I want to write this book.
There's a real quick. It's funny that these missing persons cases that are open cases still. On Wednesday, I'm going to do a show with my buddy Mike Lucci from This Week in Bigfoot and the CARC about the Bennington Triangle in Vermont, and that's another place where a lot of people have gone missing in over the course of it's been many years. I think the first and the most famous one was in 1946. A girl by the name of Paula Weldon had gone missing on the hiking trail when there was a couple people behind her for the whole time she was hiking. They were only about 15 yards behind her, and she rounded this corner, and when they rounded the corner, she was gone. And no one knows how that ever happened. But it's another one of those things where, this happened in 1946, and technically the case is still open.
Ain't that something? Yeah, ain't that weird?
How's that possible?
I don't know it.
Who's actively working on that case?
Exactly. Yeah. Is he going out there every day and reviewing evidence?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
My father-in-law lived up around Adams for a while. In fact, he was born up around Adams. And back when he told me that they were I think they were visiting somebody. But anyway, they were playing ball. And one of the neighbor's kids or something had come over, and he kicked the ball and it went out across the field. And he went to the kid went across the yard to go get the ball and just vanished and just disappeared into thin air. And they could hear him talking and yelling and crying and carrying on, but couldn't find him, So it's like he went through a portal or something, and just he never would he never would forget that. It was,
Creepy stuff.
crazy.
Man. The kid stuff is always scary because anytime you talk about a child, it just hits you in that spot. It's like you don't think children can be corrupted and children are innocent and they're not jaded and they're not all these things, and then you hear things about like child spirits or stuff like that. It's just sad. It's so sad, because it's like how hurt must their spirit be to be lost as a child, and
Right.
as an adult it's one thing. You die and you get stuck here, like at least you're an adult.
Yeah.
As a kid, imagine how scary that might be.
Oh yeah. It always like I said, I was in the volunteer rescue squad, ambulance service, fire department, for over 35 years, volunteer. And I could go to a wreck or something like that where there was a adult or something hurt. It bothered me a little bit. I mean, you have feelings for them, but a kid or something, it tore me up,
Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
We were called to a drowning one time in Ashton City, right down below the dam. This little 2-year-old girl, and why her daddy had her that close to the water, I have no idea. But she fell in, and the water was they were generating, and the water was pretty swift, and she, downstream, and they called us down there pretty quick to help recover and try to recover it, But I was praying the whole time, please do not let me find this little girl.
Yeah,
I can't handle it, I have pulled in a couple out of the water myself. They were adults, I said, a kid, I can't handle this. I had children the same age, I said, I can't do this. Please, Lord, don't let me find this child, And but she was found, I think, about 4 or 5 miles downstream, washed up in a brush pile later on, But,
God, yeah, it's just my brother's a firefighter. I think we talked about this. He's a captain at his fire department, and he's been doing this for a long time. He knew he wanted to do that since he was like a 4-year-old kid, and he just went after it. So he became a paid firefighter at a very young age. But he's been doing it for a long time, and I never understood how he was able to compartmentalize these things.
Right.
Which is what you have to do.
Yes,
you
do.
have to compartmentalize it. Otherwise, you're just it's going to eat you alive.
Oh yeah.
And it's a testament to that old, like the whole saying, like, there's like, not everyone can do that job. There's only certain people who are meant to do certain jobs.
Right.
And those people do those jobs because they know they can. I could never. I just couldn't. I would never be able to hold it together. I just couldn't do it.
The worst I remember seeing when I was in the rescue squad. I was actually a paramedic too at one time, and the reason I did that was my second child was due in February 1976, and I knew in the wintertime, and we live way out of town. I said, I might not be able to make it, if the weather turns bad, I might not be able to make it to the hospital, in time,
Mm-hmm.
So I talked our EMT instructors into changing the schedule around and giving the childbirth section of it early on into it, So I had plenty of all the practicing all we done. I knew what I'd have done if I had delivered my own child. I knew I could have done it,
Yeah.
And it almost happened that way. it snowed that night. We barely got her to the hospital in time. I mean, they didn't have time to prep her or anything. By the time we got to the hospital, I mean, Tracy was born just a few minutes later, so it was close. But yeah, it takes a special breed. I mean, it's something everybody can't do.
Certainly does. And to that point, it takes a special breed to go out and do this kind of stuff too.
Oh, like, yes.
Not everybody can do this. Not everybody can go out and research the paranormal. Like, not everybody can do what you do or what Joe and Jesse do. Like, I stay away from most of the paranormal stuff because I'm just too afraid of attachments, man. I'm a prime target. My past and my, depression, PTSD, they would come after me so fast. They'd look at me and they'd go, "Oh, lunch, we got this one," And so I stay away. As much as I want to learn more about it, it's just so risky.
Oh, I know.
And you just don't know that you go into these places, you can't see this stuff.
Exactly. Especially LBL, there's so many holes and whales and things like this. You could step in and fall in the dark. You wouldn't even know it. All it takes would be just a little bit of leaves or something, over it, and you step in them, and you never know. I've watched all of Joe and Jesse's videos probably 3 or 4 times, I guess, and it just amazes me that they can get out and and do that. Just 2 of them,
They're out of their minds.
And it's a cringe factor for me.
You gotta be a little bit nuts, right? you gotta have a little crazy in you. You have to. I mean, I think people say that too about like anything. Like, I'll say it about the paranormal stuff, but I'm sure people go, "Well, you've got to be crazy to go out in the woods by yourself and look for a Bigfoot, a 9 foot tall, 800-pound, humanoid that's out there. Right. You got to be crazy to do that." But to me, I'm like, well, I mean, I guess maybe, but I don't know. It's just too interesting not to.
I've never seen one. And I know if I do, it's going to probably change my whole outlook on life. If I
change your whole life, man.
I've seen a few things that it makes me kind of question it. But anyway, I don't know if I was going to see something up close, I think I'd rather it be a Bigfoot than a dog man.
Oh, 100%.
I think a Bigfoot may have maybe a little bit of mercy and maybe turn around and walk the other way, maybe if you're not bothering him or whatever. But a dog man, I don't know.
Here's my theory. I was talking to my mom about this earlier. She said that she watched the show and the people on the show said that the Bigfoots are bad, that they're negative, that they're not good. And my question was, well, number one, how do they know this? Did Sasquatch sit down at a table with them and have a conversation and say, "Hey, listen, we want you to let everybody know we're not nice. We're mean and we're nasty. Stay away." So I know the answer to that is no. Number two, just look at this community on YouTube, right? All the people on YouTube who go out and actively search for Sasquatch on a regular basis, if these things were nasty, negative, horrible creatures, we wouldn't be coming back from these outings,
right. Exactly.
And we continue to come back. Now, I'm not saying that every one of them is the same. I think that they're probably like humans, where the majority of them aren't out there to harm you. If you encroach too much and you push it too much, they'll probably defend their territory and their family. And then there's probably a group of them, just like human beings, that are nasty and no good. But the majority, I would assume, have to be at least, pretty docile, because if they weren't, I wouldn't be here right now.
Right.
And so many others wouldn't be.
And most of the accounts you hear where they've had rocks thrown at them, they weren't hit with the rocks. They were just, thrown at them, I guess, to scare them away, so.
Oh, we were getting hit with them, but they were these little tiny, like, pebbles like this. And they were just, like, looping, like, and they'd come and hit you on the shoulder or something.
Right.
Like,
That was
just to let you know.
to
Yeah,
get your attention. You know,
just
that's
to
what
let you
that was
know.
for. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was telling mom the other day too, you know, when the bluff charge thing happened, I always said this, like I go over this in my head for so long. Why have I not had this smell that everybody talks about? I've had activity, like, you know, multiple times. Why did I never smell this smell that everybody talked about ever? People talk about this terrible smell, smells like rotting meat, smells like a
Hmm.
dog, smells like pee, and I never smelt it. And then the only time that I did was when this bluff charge happened, just about what a month ago, a month and a half ago, and I smelled it then. It smelled like an outhouse that had been outside in the summer sun. That's what it
Oh
smelled like. It smelled
man.
like hot pee. It was terrible. And what I found out is that gorillas can control their body odor, and when they excrete it in large amounts, it's when there's a territorial issue. So my thought was, okay, I got too close. I was getting too close to something, or to its family, to whatever. It released that odor to let me know. And when I didn't realize that's what the odor was for and kept going, then it did this bluff charge thing. But that's my thought on why they do that. It's a way to let people know, like, you're getting too close, pal. You're getting too close. But we don't understand it because we don't speak that language.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that could be some of these tree knocks to be letting you know that you're getting a little close, you know,
Yeah.
or to draw you away from, you know, I don't know. It's
The tree knock thing, I always go back and forth on, because you it's if it's some sort of communication device, we can't go out there and bang on trees then and think we know what the hell we're saying.
exactly.
You know, what if I do three knocks and they're not in the pattern that it's supposed to be, and it's me telling this thing, like, you suck, pal,
Yeah.
come get some. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then this thing's like, oh, okay, all right, you want to get down, pal, let's do it. You
It's
know.
talking about that. When I was working most time we actually on the midnight shift. We'd get out and just we all had side by sides we rode on, and we had one that was a four seater. Well, we'd get on with the four seater and just ride around the building. You know, just we called it perimeter check. You know, we just get out and ride around. You know, and we get back there in the back corner by the we had they had their own ponds and all back there. It was actually wetlands that they pumped all their water in, and they had these cattails. I mean, it was acres and acres of wetlands just to process the water that come out of the plant. And we'd ride back there bed, and I let out a, a Sasquatch call or something, you know. And then the other boy, he got to doing it, and I said, you know, you're not quite doing it right. I said, that may be a mating call you're doing, you know. And I'll tell you what, if this big male Sasquatch come running out of the woods, you're on your own, buddy.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
on
all
your own.
set, buddy. Hopefully you can outrun them. Hopefully you can outrun them. Real
Exactly.
quick, Fresh just brought something up. We were discussing, you know, there's people talk about supernatural very often, and then you have natural. We were discussing preternatural. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that term, but supernatural is above natural, right? Natural being everything in nature, how everything in nature works naturally. Supernatural is above that. Preternatural is beside nature, so it works both, naturally, and then a little bit outside of natural, but it's not quite supernatural. So it may be this thing, like when we talk about, people theorizing that these creatures can jump through portals, disappear, cloak themselves, all this stuff. I think what's maybe happening here is that they're just using a form of science, natural science, that we don't quite understand yet. And that doesn't mean that they're not doing those things. They could be doing those things using this science that we don't understand yet. But it's a very interesting thing. If you get the chance, look up preternatural, And I'd love to know what anybody thinks about how
Yeah.
that might relate to Bigfoot behavior.
Y'all made me a note where I could look it up.
Oh, Bernie.
That was interesting.
Bernie. Oh, thank you, Bernie. I appreciate that. Oh,
I
God,
did do.
man.
I bought me a call blaster off of Amazon, and it comes with an app that has all these animal sounds. I think it has several hundred animal calls and all with it, And I'm gonna try to do some call blasting. I go to LBL, try to do a little bit of call blasting and all. But there's one I'm kind of curious. I want to try out one of these days, and I don't know how it's going to respond. You remember the movie When Harry Met Sally?
Yeah.
The dinner scene.
Yes. I remember that scene. You
Then
could try that.
I've got that saved onto my Intuit as an MP3 file. just curious as what that will stir up, What about a mating call,
Oh my God. I can't even. Hey, listen, it's no crazier than anything else anyone else is doing.
Exactly,
I mean, how
exactly.
do we know?
I'm hopefully I can buy one of Ron Moorhead's CDs at the Wildman conference, and
Yeah.
I'll try to rip them in the MP3 files and put a couple 3 of them on this thing and see. But it does an amazing. It's 115 dB. It's pretty loud.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna try that out.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I always thought about the call blasting thing, getting the Sierra sounds and trying to loop them or something, play them back. There's I was sent once, and I can't find it now. I don't know what happened to it. I was sent a list of supposed Sasquatch sounds from somebody back when I first started this channel. And it was a list that was so long. It was a mile long, and it had everything from howls, screams, whoops, chatter, grunts, breathing, all these different sounds that these things make. And I don't know what the hell happened to it. I wish I still had it, because though some of the stuff on there would be really interesting to try.
Oh yes, it would. It would.
It would
really
be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tomorrow when I go. Excuse me. Sorry. Tomorrow when I go, I am. Like I said, I don't do a whole lot of the knocking thing. I've done it before, and it kind of makes me a little nervous. I have done some whoops and stuff. The whoops about as far as I go. But who knows? I usually just go in and talk. Like, I'll just go in and talk and say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm gonna leave these things for you. Hey, Stingray, what's up, man? Good to see you. Thank you for joining. I'm gonna leave this gift here for you. This is for you and your people and your family." And there's that Hellbent shirt.
Yeah, it was in the corner of the. It was showing up full before I went to partial screen.
Product placement.
Exactly.
Yeah, product placement. We can't get these products. That's the problem.
Now we're talking about the speaker. Any kind of little. If you got a cell phone that you can actually download MP3 files onto, it's got Bluetooth on it. Any of these little speakers, like this Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah.
I don't know how loud it would be, but any kind of a loud Bluetooth speaker would work.
Yeah.
Just use your phone to just to play it with. So that would work great.
It's something. I mean, it's better than nothing. It's
Exactly.
better not having to carry some giant stereo speaker out into the woods or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be great if you were on an outing with a bunch of people and you could, potentially do it. Carry some giant speaker out that would call through the valleys and
have a generator set up back with pickup truck.
Yeah.
Maybe some big sound system with subwoofers and all that stuff. Yeah, you could do some call blasting.
Yeah, I thought that would be amazing. Fresh. What about a dog whistle? Yeah, maybe it's possible. I mean, I don't know though, because there's dog men out there. I don't know if a dog would call a dog man in. I don't know how I'd feel about
I
that. Well, I
don't
know how
know.
I feel about that. I don't feel good about it.
I think Barton experimented with one just the last few days. I'm thinking, and I don't think
He
he
had
got
said
it
he did
response out
before,
of
and he
it.
didn't get anything.
Right.
Yeah, but
How you
still,
know if
I
they're
don't know
how
if
you
I'd
know if
take
they're
that risk.
working?
Huh?
How you know if they're working? You can't hear them. That's like these little insect repellent things you plug in the wall. Ultrasonic sound. How you
Yeah,
know they're working? You can't see them.
can't hear it.
Can't hear them.
Can't.
Can't see them.
Yeah,
Oh,
just a big racket.
exactly.
Yep,
Oh,
that's funny.
one more thing I want to get back to on the Bell Witch we were talking about.
Sure,
We
go
kind of
for
we
it.
kind of got off a little bit. Uh, after John Bell, after Kate killed John Bell and he was buried, uh, she hung around for several days and promised to come back in 7 years. And I had these years figured up at one time, but anyway, and then she came back and predicted a lot of things that was going to take place. She predicted the end of the Civil War, the end of slavery. Um, I think Lincoln's assassination. Um, I think she missed World War II by maybe 3 or 4 years. She said something, well, a few years. Something was supposed to have happened in 1935. She predicted that would have had the possibility of destroying the world in a great uh, explosion and heat. And I think what she was predicting, I think then was maybe the atomic bomb, maybe.
Hiroshima.
But she missed it by just a very few years, maybe 4 or 5 years, maybe.
Hmm.
And but it was when she was supposed to come back after that in 107 years after that. And some people say that she did. Some say she didn't. I don't know if she. I don't think she ever left. To tell you the truth, another guy up in Adams was writing a book on it, and his philosophy or his theory on the deal was, that's why I was mentioning these three chimneys on his house. John Bell's house had three chimneys, one on each side and one in the rear at the kitchen. And the way I understand it, a lot of times back then the kitchen was separate from the rest of the house, because in case the chimney, the fire, house caught on fire, the kitchen caught on fire, well then you could probably save the rest of the house. Another thing is it kept all the heat down out of the house in the summertime. But anyway, the way I understand it, John Bell's kitchen was on the back of the house. There's three chimneys on the house. They tore part of the house down. Joel Bell tore part of the house down and moved it to his farm and reconstructed a log cabin out of it. In fact, that's the cabin you see back behind the Bell School today. It's supposed to be that one cabin. It's actually from the John Bell house. And but his theory is when Joel tore the addition off of the house, they removed one of the chimneys, which broke a triangle, and the triangle was what Kate was supposed to be using to come back to visit, and that's his theory. She never came back because the triangle had been destroyed by taking that part of the house off. Now, it's just far-fetched theory,
Hey, but I mean, it's no
never know.
more far-fetched than anything else.
It's all far-fetched. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no more far-fetched than anything else. It's all very interesting, though.
It is.
Before we end, I do want to read this list that I sent you because I think it's interesting. I looked up, being that it's Halloween, I looked up the like myths and legends, creepy myths and legends for every state, and every state has their own. And I'm going to read them to you, and I'm going to give you a brief description of them. I was surprised at some of these. Like when I got to, I thought the Bell Witch would have been the number one thing when I got down there, and it was not. When I got to Connecticut, I thought that it would be the Melon Heads, because that was such a big thing here, is the Melon Head people. And that was not the big legend here, apparently. I mean, I guess it just depends on who you ask, um, but I think it's interesting. So here we go. Alabama, Hell's Gate Bridge. Uh, the generally accepted story of Hell's Gate Bridge starts in the 1950s. A young couple driving over the bridge somehow drove their car off the bridge one night and they both drowned. There are two legends associated with Hell's Gate Bridge. One, that if you drive your car out to the middle of the bridge and turn off the lights, the couple will magically appear in your car and leave a wet spot on the seat. Okay, well, depends on how you take that. The other, which is how the bridge got its name, is the belief that if you drive over the bridge and look over your shoulder halfway through, the scenery behind you turns into a portal to hell engulfed in flames. Potentially to curb ghost hunters and bored teenagers, Hell's Gate Bridge is closed to cars and is in such disrepair that walking across the bridge is strongly discouraged. Alaska, and this has always been a favorite of mine, the Kushtaka of the Alaskan Triangle. Everyone knows the story of the Bermuda Triangle, but you might not know the story of the Alaskan Triangle. This is crazy. On average, 5 out of every 1,000 people go missing in Alaska. That is a crazy number. According to the LA Times, so even if there's nothing supernatural going on, it's easy to get lost in the Alaskan wilderness, obviously. The Tlingit tribe who lived in Juneau have their own explanation for the high number of missing people. Evil spirits called the Kushtaka. The Kushtaka are shapeshifters, half human, half otter, who lure women and children to the water with fake cries in order to steal their human spirits and drown them. Now, if you've watched Alex Petikoff and Seth Breedlove's Small Town Monsters episodes on Alaska and the Bigfoot and the triangle out there, they'll tell you that the people in that town that they went to, and we're talking about the remote wilderness of Alaska, the people in that town, when women are around, only women, they'll hear what sounds like baby cries coming from the woods. And some of this has been caught on tape. And this is a place where there's been multiple Bigfoot reports. So I think when you have these things like the Otter Man, the Bear Man, years ago, before there was a name for things like Bigfoot or Sasquatch, they would describe it as something that they knew, right? It looked like an otter. It looked like a big otter, half man, half otter. It was standing up, it was covered in hair, like an otter is, or it was covered in hair like a bear, but it walked like a man. So that makes sense to me. Arizona is the ghost of Slaughterhouse Canyon. The story of Slaughterhouse Canyon, also called the less frightening Luanas Canyon, takes place during the gold rush. During the 1800s, there was a family who lived down in the canyon. They were very poor, so the father would venture out into the canyon for food for his family. As you might have guessed, one day the father didn't return, so his family slowly starved and descended into madness. The mother, unable to bear listening to her children's cries anymore, put on her wedding dress, murdered her children, and then threw them into a nearby river. The next day, she succumbed to starvation herself. The legend states if you go down to Slaughterhouse Canyon at night, even now, you hear the loud, anguished cries of the mother who lost her mind. Creepy stuff.
Yeah.
Arkansas, the Boggy Creek Monster.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one. In Fouke, Arkansas's version of Sasquatch. He's commonly accepted to be around 7 or 8 feet tall, covered in hair. Legend says that he roams the creeks of rural Arkansas. He was first spotted in 1834 when people reported seeing a wild man. People still claim to spot the Boggy Creek Monster today. He's been the subject of 5 feature films, including 1972's The Legend of Boggy Creek. Still such a great movie, even today. California, the Charman. Charman's origin story is gruesome. A father and his son were both caught in a house fire and horribly burnt in 1948. After the fire, the son became so mentally unstable that he killed his father. When the police found the son, he was so unrecognizably burnt they didn't realize he was alive. So he ran away before they were able to arrest him for the murder of his father. The story goes that ever since then, the Charman can be spotted wandering the woods surrounding Ojai, occasionally approaching tents of innocent campers or pretending to be a hitchhiker and then attempting to attack them. Ojai is a beautiful town too. If you've never seen Ojai, look it up. It's a really, it's a small town, but it's beautiful. Ojai also is on Sons of Anarchy. If you ever watch that show. Colorado, many legends of Riverdale Road. Riverdale Road is the site of not one but 8 creepy stories, ranging from a hell gate to ghosts of slaves hanging from trees. The stretch of road is decidedly spooky. The creepiest story, though, is that of the phantom jogger. One day there was a driver who hit a jogger, freaked out, and left him for dead. Now it is said if you park at the site of the crash, you'll hear disembodied footsteps getting closer and closer to your car. People have reported handprints on their window and banging noises as if someone was kicking the outside of it. Good old Connecticut, where I live.
Oh.
Hannah Cranna, known as the Wicked Witch of Monroe. Hannah Cranna gained a reputation as a witch in the 19th century when her husband died by mysteriously falling off a cliff, and locals reportedly believed that she had been bewitched by him. Or she had bewitched him. People also believed that she would cast spells on people she didn't like. Hannah lived to the age of 77. Right before she died, she asked to be carried down to the cemetery in her coffin by foot, not wagon. After her death, the people of Monroe tried to wheel her coffin down the hill, but were unable. The coffin kept falling off, and they were forced to carry it on foot. When the townspeople returned to her home, it was found to be engulfed in flames, sealing Hannah's reputation of witchcraft. Now you, too, can visit her real grave in Trumbull. Maybe we'll go to Hannah Cranna's grave in the next couple weeks. Maybe we'll do that for a Halloween episode of this. That might be interesting.
Is that where the Three Stooges came up with their name? Remember
What?
That? Hannah.
That's right.
I had to throw that in there.
That's right. I'm not going to do all these tonight. I'm going to read a couple each episode through the month because obviously there's 50 of these things, so it's just going to take too long, but we'll do a few. Delaware, the ghost of Mr. Chew. While not a particularly mean-spirited ghost, Samuel Chew's story is still disconcerting. Chew was the Chief Justice of the Delaware Supreme Court in 1741. As the story goes, while he was alive, he didn't always get the respect he deserved. People frequently made fun of his name by mimicking sneezes while he walked by. Mr. Chew, Mr. Achu. After his death, people reported seeing his ghost sitting under a poplar tree, wandering the courthouse and generally creeping out residents of Dover. Man, Delaware is known to be a boring state. They even have a boring folklore. That wasn't that good. Florida, the gravity-defying Spook Hill. These are always very weird to me. These, like, where you park your car on a hill and it seems to roll upward.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody says it's a trick of the mind and the eyes. It's because of the surroundings. It's actually rolling backwards. How is that possible? It's not rolling backwards. There's no trick of the eyes that makes your car look like it's rolling backwards when it's going up a hill like that. It's not possible. It's ridiculous. But that's what this is. A phenomenon that happens at Spook Hill is real. Cars are parked in neutral will appear to roll uphill. Legend says the hill is either the site of a Native American burial ground or an epic battle of a Native American chief against a crocodile. Okay, that's weird.
Yeah.
But the truth is it's actually an illusion created by the hill's surroundings. While cars appear to be rolling uphill, they're just rolling downhill. Makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's not going to look like it's rolling uphill if it's rolling downhill. I don't care what's around it. Let's be real here. There's another lie. Georgia, the ghost town of Lake Lanier. At the bottom of Lake Lanier lies almost fully intact towns, ferries, a racetrack, and multiple cemeteries. The Georgia government, in its determination to create Lake Lanier, bought up entire towns in order to clear the space for the lake after they received congressional approval in 1946. However, they just decided to let the water cover up the towns rather than demolishing them. Now, Lake Lanier has a decidedly eerie feel. There have been an unusual number of freak accidents and deaths on the lake. In 2011, there were 17 deaths alone. Many of the people who drowned there have been recovered. People have been reported feeling arms and legs in the water, but have not been able to find them right after, leading people to believe spirits still roam and haunt the lake. That's creepy. We're going to do 2 more and then we'll stop. Hawaii, the Night Marchers. According to Hawaiian lore, night marchers are not evil spirits, but they do demand respect. They are spirits of ancient Hawaiian warriors who march around the islands to protect sacred areas. Legend says that if you look directly at a night marcher, you will be marked for death. And if by some chance you find yourself in the middle of a procession, you're supposed to lie down in the middle of the road. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Right. That sounds safe. Idaho. This is really dark. It's dark, but we got to read it. Idaho, the water babies of Massacre Rocks. Water babies are a Native American legend that are found in a couple of different places in America, but most famously in Pocatello, Idaho, at Massacre Rock State Park. The Shoshone tribe was first recorded in 1805 and were roaming the Great Plains as early as the 1500s, so it's not clear when exactly this legend originated. But the story goes that the Shoshone experienced an extreme famine. Mothers were forced to drown their babies in the river rather than watch their children starve. Today, some people claim that if you sit quietly at the river by Massacre Rocks, you hear the sound of babies crying. Other stories say that these babies grew gills and fins and survived, and now they seek revenge on the mothers by luring unsuspecting victims to their death by the river. All right, I'm doing one more just because this is ridiculous. Did anybody ever watch the show In Living Color back in the 90s? It was a comedy sketch show. It was funny. It was very funny back then.
Homie, don't play that.
This is what that's about. This is crazy. Okay, that Homie the Clown was on that show. Homie don't play that, right? That was the whole thing. He was a clown. He was a urban fella, and it was very funny. Some of the sketches, the bum Antoine was my favorite. But so Homie the Clown is part of the show. Well, here you go. Throughout the suburbs in the 90s in Chicago, there was a rumor going around that in elementary schools there was a creepy man dressed as Homie the Clown. Yes, that Homie the Clown, driving around in a white van trying to lure kids into it with candy and money. In some variations, he was a kidnapper. In others, he was a rapist. But in all variations, Homie left a mark on the Chicago kids in the 90s. That's creepy.
It is creepy.
Clowns are creepy anyway, right? I mean, clowns are creepy. So right away, you have a creepy factor that's very high. Now he's pretending to be Homie the Clown, trying to lure kids into a creeper van. I mean, this is scary myth folklore 101. Anytime there's a van involved with a creepy man, it usually doesn't end well. If you see a van that has blacked out windows driving down the road, and it's driving slowly by a guy with really thick glasses, usually, it's real thick, like Coke bottle glasses. For whatever reason, these weird pedophiles always have these super thick glasses. I don't know. But yeah, that's creepy. So anyway, we got the Homie the Clown. I'll read some more in the next show, and we'll continue doing that until they're done. But
is Kentucky the next on the list?
Let's see. Is Kentucky next on the list? No, Indiana.
Okay.
Iowa, Kansas, and then Kentucky. The Kentucky one. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, do you remember what it was?
Goat Man.
The Goat Man. That's a very scary story, right? That whole thing is very creepy. I know. I've watched a couple episodes of some ghost hunting shows where people have gone to this Goat Man Bridge and had some really, really messed up things happen.
Yeah, I was doing a little research on it. Actually, the whole eastern United States. This guy named Charles Chess McCartney. They called him the Goat Man. He actually traveled all over the eastern United States in like a wagon train pulled by goats, and he had all of his pots and pans hanging on this little wagon he rode in, and he just made his living just people stopping, talking to him, and giving him donations and all, and but he was known as the Goat Man. I thought that was kind of. I've got a picture of him. I saw him at least twice during my childhood when he come through Springfield, and I've got a picture of him here somewhere. I have to look it up and see. I'll try to have it for the next one. But they called him the Goat Man, so I thought that was kind of odd.
There's a lot of these, right? These legends, and every state has. Most states have multiples. Like so, Connecticut. I was saying the Melon Heads is one of them. Then we have the legend of the Leatherman. The Leatherman is not a. It's not a creepy tale though. It's about a guy who lived in a cave, and he was a homeless man, and he basically traveled from town to town, and he would kind of live like you talk about, people would give him donations, and he'd go into restaurants and they'd feed him for free. And he was, I think he had some mental health issues or whatever, but he lived in a cave by himself. And to some people that's scary, but he would go into these places, and he was a very docile, calm, genuinely nice man. But, you get these legends that get spun out of control because people don't understand some of these things. The Melonhead legend, it got spun out of control. They called them deformed mutant humanoids. But what really, how all that started was when the mental hospitals and the group homes shut down in Connecticut, which happened back in like the 70s, I believe. Almost all of them shut down because the funding got taken away. You have these people who lived in them who have a form of encephalopathy, which is like a swelling on the brain, causes the skull to be big and deformed and bulbous or whatever. And so a lot of them had nowhere to go. They just let them go. Like literally, here's your stuff, out the front door you go, bye-bye. And so the rumor or the folklore is some of these people went and just lived off in the woods like feral people for years and years and years. And, driving down the wrong road at night, they might be walking down that road. It's a scary sight to see somebody with a very big, creepy, big head,
Yeah.
But technically, really, they weren't anything to fear. I guess if after generations, maybe they lived in the woods and they had children and whatever, that maybe they become more feral over time, and then you might have to worry. But, generally, I don't think it's anything you have to worry about. Pig Boy. I've heard of the Pig Boy before, Stingray. There's who knows? I mean, there's so much weird stuff out here. So much weird stuff. You just don't know, man. I don't think we scratch the surface of really everything that goes on.
Oh, no way.
Look up, but there's another one that always scared me, is the New York one. We'll get to it. I'm just going to say it now, though, because it's Cropsey. Look up Cropsey. You talk about creepy, and this is real life creepy. That was scary. That was a terrifying thing. It was about a supposed person who would like go to camps and like I think like maybe, I don't remember if it was mental hospitals or something like that, but they would go to he would go to camps and hold on, I want to make sure I get this right. He would go to sleepaway camps, psychiatric facilities, and children's hospitals. He had a hook for a hand, and he would hunt children. And the craziest part about this is a true story. Now, some of the facts obviously have gotten twisted, but it was a true story about a man who hunted kids and killed them. So any kid who went away to camp in New York was just probably terrified that this Cropsey guy was going to come kill him. Just scary shit.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. But anyway, it's been an hour and a half. This was a great show, Dewey. You did a wonderful job explaining the Bell Witch to us. It's such an interesting story, man. It really has always fascinated me. A lot of people, I think, too, get the Bell Witch confused with what was the Blair Witch Project based on? The one that was the witch in Maryland.
I
Oh,
think so. Yeah.
what was the name of that witch? I want to get this right because that was that whole thing. I remember when that movie came out, and people were going crazy. Um, I want to make sure I get this right. The Blair Witch Project based off. Um, Mole Dyer. The Legend of Mole Dyer is what the Blair Witch Project
Hmm.
is based on. The Burkittsville Witch. Yeah,
Yeah.
Burkittsville. That's right. Yep. All right. I just wanted to make sure I got that right. Um, I loved Sleepy Hollow too. The Headless Horseman. Yeah, that was. I always loved that. I still
Oh,
watch it
yeah.
every Halloween. Every Halloween. Do you ever watch a Tim Burton one with Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci? It's an awesome movie.
It
Awesome
is.
movie. Yeah, it's so good. I love Tim Burton. He's one of my favorites. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Please watch tomorrow. I don't know what time I'm going to get there because I got to go. Okay, actually, I'm going to fill you guys in on this too, by the way, because any kind of positive energy or prayers, I can use it right now. So here's what happened. I go to feed Princess the other day, and as I'm feeding her, a police officer pulls up behind my car, gets out of his car, and he comes over to me. And I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? So I was like, hey, how you doing? He's like, hey, how you doing, man? I'm like, good. And he says, are you here feeding cats? And I said, yeah, why? And he said, I got a phone call. We got a phone call to the dispatch, said that, there's a guy who comes here and feeds cats. The owner of the house said she doesn't want you here anymore. Now, mind you, for 6 years, 7 now, I have fed and cared for this cat. I asked her if I could do this, if she was okay with it. Not only did she say yes, she thanked me, right? I said to her, do you mind if I put some heating pads in a house in your garage for her when it gets cold? I will give you 20 or 30 bucks a month because the heating pad ain't going to take up that much electricity. It's not running all day. It's just running at night when she goes to bed. And, and she said, no, don't worry about it. You're buying the food and taking care of her. It's fine. Again, when I moved in that neighborhood, this cat was starving. She had fleas. She was anemic. She had worms, all stuff that I treated. 6 years have been going on. Now, all of a sudden I get there and the cop comes and says, I can't feed her anymore and I can't be there. So now I have to try to feed her off of that price. I said to the cop, I go, so can I feed her in the neighbor's house? Can I feed her over here? And he goes, as long as you're not on her property, you can feed her. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. But here's the issue. Because I don't have a place now to put her houses and her heating pads for the winter, she doesn't have a warm place to sleep when the winter comes. And I'm freaking out already. I'm so stressed out. I'm gonna get sad right now. She's 13 years old, man. Like she if we have a really cold winter, it's not going to be good for her. She's
No,
not.
it's
I don't
not.
know if she'll make it. Like if we had a cold snap last year that lasted 2 weeks, that was negative 10 degrees or 1 degree outside. It's not. She won't. I don't think she'll make it through the winter if that happens this year and it lasts longer than that. So I can feed her still. And that's what I do. I go up every day and I just go down the street and feed her down the street, whatever. It's a little difficult to feed Grandpa because Grandpa knows that I go there and he waits there. He's more skittish. Princess will come to me, because she's like basically my cat. Grandpa won't really come. So I have to try to teach him that I can't feed you there. You have to come off the property and eat your food out here. And so that's obviously, another tribulation that you have to figure out how to do. But the big thing is I don't know what I'm going to do about getting her a warm place to go when it's cold outside this winter.
Have you considered catnapping?
Catnapping.
Not kidnapping, but catnapping.
Catnapping. Oh, yeah. So here's the deal, right? The difficult part about that is she doesn't want that cat. She doesn't want to care for it. But if I took that cat,
Should have you arrested.
she'd have me arrested. She knows me 100%, and I'd have to then, because I can't keep her where I'm living right now. I can't keep her.
Right.
I just can't. I tried before to get her acclimated to be she's been outside for so long that as much as inside would be good for her, she's terrified of it. She feels like she's like trapped, and she freaks. So unless she can come and go as she wants, she'll freak out. But I would even do it and take her to like the Humane Society or whatever. But the problem is when you do that, you have to then sign your name and say, I brought this cat here. So she would absolutely have me arrested. I guarantee it. And I don't know why. I don't know where this is coming from. I have no idea. But it speaks volumes when she has two kids, the youngest of which lives with his dad, right? And her daughter, who's 17 or 18 years old, also lives with the brother's dad. It's not even her dad. It's the brother's dad. She chose to live with him instead of her biological mother. So that speaks volumes on what this biatch is as a human being. But it's just sickening. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I wanted to lose my shit the other day and just like, I wanted to go Harry Carey. But I know I couldn't. I know that if I got in trouble, then that, I wouldn't be able to feed this cat at all. So just, prayers, please. Just pray that we can figure something out for this cat so that she has a place to sleep in the winter that's warm. Because I've given her a place every winter since I lived there, whether it was in her garage at that house or on my porch. But I no longer live at that house anymore, so I don't even have that option. It just sucks. So anyway, I just wanted to see if keep us in your prayers because we can use it. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Dewey. And we're gonna make this a regular thing, pretty regular thing, right?
Yeah.
You're cool with that?
I'm cool with it.
I love it, man. I love it. I love having you on the show. It's wonderful. You tell such a great story, man. It's always
I'm gonna say one thing before we sign off.
Say whatever you want.
A couple things. There's a couple things going on. This coming weekend, the Tennessee Wildman Conference in Burns, Tennessee, Saturday and Sunday, 14th and 15th. I'm gonna be there. Joe and Jesse's going to be there. Martin's going to be there. Ron Moorhead is going to be there speaking. So it ought to be a good show. Also we're having just up here. We can see it or not. It's backwards.
Bell Witch Fall Festival.
It's back. Anyway, the Adams is having their annual Bell Witch Fall Festival. It's going on now. They were showing had a play on Smoke, which was about the Kentucky Tennessee Night Riders, tobacco war.
Oh yeah.
And I think they're through with that, and now the Spirit play is starting up, as far as the Bell Witch play. And I've seen it several years ago. It's a great play. And then it's going to, I think, September the 27th and 28th. I'll have my books at Adams at the Fall Festival. So I've been invited to bring my books down there and sell them. So I'm going to try to be there. So.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
That's all I've got.
If you guys, if anyone's close to that area, go down and check it out, man. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful time. Shepherdess, thank you so much. You're right. There's nothing they can arrest me for. They can't arrest me for feeding a cat. I already know that. But again, like without having a property to put the house on and to plug in a heating pad, I have no option because there's not really like a place there that I can put the house on public land because then the town can come and take it away. And I certainly can't plug into anywhere to put the heating pads or the heater out there. That's the
Right.
problem. But yeah, hopefully we'll figure something out. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe she'll come to her senses, maybe, and that you can
Maybe, or
do
maybe she'll
that.
disappear.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anybody know any good voodoo mamas? Speaking of curses, we could use one right now.
There you go.
Oh boy, I'm just kidding, kind of. So yeah, I'll be going out tomorrow. Please watch for that. If you're in the area of where Dewey's at or any of these festivals are at, please go check him out. Show him your support. Buy a book. I got 2 of his books here. They're wonderful. They really are. They're great books. They're such easy reads. He just tells such a great story. You just tell such a wonderful, wonderful story. It's so easy to listen to you. People are saying it in the comments all the show. You just, very easy to listen to. So, and it's the truth. It's the truth. So I'm thrilled that you're on board with co-hosting the show with me. It's going to be so much fun.
And if you don't like to read and you do Audible, my Something Wicked, the Bell Witch book is on Audible. My daughter Shannon did narrate it for me. She did an excellent job.
Nice.
She does several voiceovers and things like that, so she did the narrating for me and did a great job on it. So it's on Audible. If you don't want to fool reading it, get an Audible and you can listen to it while you're driving to work if you want to. But she did a great job on it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So there you go. There's another option. If you don't like to read, you can listen. That's always nice too, to listen to a book on tape. I think sometimes for me, it sinks in better when I hear someone saying it reading it. You know what I mean? Because it gives it a little bit extra. It brings the story to life more. I think when I hear somebody dictating it to me.
I guess one of my favorite Audible books, I guess, is Stephen King. It's called 112263.
Is that the John Kennedy one?
Yes. I love it. I've listened to it 3 or 4 times already.
Yes,
I love it.
I never listened to it. I read it when during COVID. Oh, it was so good, man. It was so.
I gotta hear it on Audible. It is great.
I gotta listen to it. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, that was a wonderful read. Oh man, now you got me interested in hearing it. Anyway, all right, let's get out of here. Like I said, watch tomorrow. I don't know what time I'll be out there. I'll give you guys a little update on my ride up there to let you know that I'm going to go live soon. So I'll be out in the woods. Hopefully we get a signal. Pray for a signal. I really want one. If anyone's in the area, if you live anywhere near Connecticut and you want to come out and try to find Bigfoot with me, email me because I have no one to go with. So I'd be happy to go out with any of you guys. And then Wednesday, Mike Lucci from the CARC and This Week in Bigfoot will be here to discuss the Bennington Triangle. And then hopefully next weekend, Dewey, you'll come back on next weekend? Or are you going to be busy next weekend?
I will be Sunday. I will be at the Wildman Conference. Well, I'll be at the Wildman Conference unless you want to do a later show.
We could do
drive back from Burns. It's about a little over our drive for me. So.
Well, what about Saturday? You busy Saturday?
Saturday and Sunday, I'll be at the Wildman.
Saturday and Sunday. So then maybe we'll just do it next Monday then. We'll just do it.
That'll
Monday.
Work. Next Monday will work. Yeah, that'll work.
All right.
Great.
So then Dewey will be back next Monday, guys. Stay tuned. Just watch the channel. I'll drop.
I've got a name for your show coming up this next one you're going to do tomorrow.
Well, what is it?
Bigfoot and Sugarmouth.
Bigfoot and Sugarmouth. That's right. Old Bigfoot and old Sugarmouth.
Exactly. That'll work.
So watch out for that tomorrow. Bigfoot and old Sugarmouth. The Pop-Tart aficionado. Thanks, guys. I love you all. You're wonderful. Have a great night. See you next time.
Y'all have a good night.
Bye, guys.